Welcome to EntrePods, the most cutting-edge podcast for entrepreneurs and investors. We answer the hottest question today. So now what? We are radically civilized with a focus on durable solutions that make the most positive impacts in your business, financial, personal, and community life. The world right now belongs to entrepreneurs. Today, we'll show you through our expert conversations that matter, the limitless opportunities you have right now to live the life of your dreams. The best version of you and your business starts now. Welcome to EntrePods.
Hello, EntrePods. I know that y'all are so happy to be here with me today, and I am happy to be here with you. Today, we have a real estate expert and podcast host. It's the founder of the Redux Group, and it's a nationally acclaimed real estate team. He's also the host of the Uncommon Real Estate Podcast, a realtor, a real estate investor, a coach. He runs several successful businesses in the Washington, D.C. area, Richmond, Virginia, and he sold, him and his team sold over $150 million worth of real estate in 2020. That's right. So that's, of course, now you know why we brought him on the show. But not just that, he's been married for 20 years and he has 6 children. So we're going to have so much to talk about today. So anyone, let us welcome Chris Craddock to the show. Welcome, Chris. How are you?
Hey, Jennifer, I am so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
I am excited to have you. So 6 kids in a lockdown. How's that working out for you?
Well, if you ask any of our kids, I always just say abide by rule number 1. And then you ask the kids what rule number 1 is, and they all roll their eyes and just say, don't die. That's about right. Just don't die. So.
Isn't that funny? And that's the easiest way to live too. That takes, really, that's just the most basic thing. Just let's keep afloat. Let's keep afloat. So I really love your podcast and love the things that you talk about. And you are I like the fact that you're coming on today because DC and Virginia are really crazy markets right now. I talk to real estate investors and they're just you have to have a lot of savvy to even know what's going on because DC can change so much with elections and political climate, and you've got entire groups of people who are moving out, coming in all the time. So it is so dynamic. So are you from the area? Why are you there? Why did you decide to pick that, or did you have to?
Well, it's funny. So I actually was born in Richmond until I was 2, which we have an expansion team in Richmond. Totally not related, but heck, it works. And so, was born in Richmond, moved up here, and then I've been here my whole life. I went to all through school. I even did my master's degree here locally, and then my doctorate I was able to do online while I was still here. So yeah, I was here my whole life, and it's been awesome. It's been awesome. I love the DC area. Although I will say this, I know you're from Texas. If all my friends and family weren't here, I'd probably spend a lot more time somewhere south where it's a little bit warmer.
Yeah, it is nice to have it warm until it's 100 degrees in a sauna and your hair just sticks to your face and you're just not fun anymore. But it's better than freezing. Texas, it was funny. We had this really bad freeze in February, and I live on an island. So it is tropical, palm trees and everything else. And I was without power and running water for 2 whole weeks. So we had literally to carry a water bucket up and down our street in our neighborhood because one neighbor let us fill up a bucket a day. It was so weird, but it got down to, I think, 29 in my house. And I laughed because on my social media, there was this how people write little funny little comments. And they were literally every Texan right now regarding their bucket list. And on it was Alaskan cruise, and they had scratched it out because that no longer sounds appetizing to us anymore, right?
So Jennifer, can I tell you my favorite joke about Texas?
Yes.
All right. How do you know someone's from Texas?
I don't know.
They'll tell you.
That's true. That is true.
Absolutely. But I love Texas. I think Texas is awesome.
We are ridiculous. We're ridiculous. If you go to any amusement park, this is a running
joke. You can pick out the Texans. You definitely can pick out the Texans.
Well, you can, because you'll say, I can tell you everybody here who's from Texas in a moment, and they will do exactly what I want them to do. And people will go, what? And they'll go, the stars at night are big and bright. And they'll just stop. And everybody from Texas goes, deep in the heart of Texas. It's like ingrained in our soul. We cannot not clap during that time. Anyway, so let's just get right into it. So tell us a little bit about you, because right now you're really helping out investors. You're doing coaching and you're working with a lot of investors. Plus, you still have your own business and you're doing stuff. So tell me a little bit about what's happening right now and how you're helping investors and things that, you know, our audience is really going to want to know about.
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest thing here is, so for me, you know, I run a massive retail team. So we do a lot of business, but then I got into real estate. I was in ministry for a long time, and to afford to live, I got into real estate by flipping houses. And so it's just pretty crazy because the retail side and the investor side seem to be on two separate sides of the aisle, but they don't really ever mix. Well, what happened a few years ago was I realized that some of the big investors here in the area that I'm in, they literally spend thousands and thousands of dollars on leads. And if they can't close it at 65 cents, 70 cents on the dollar, they just go back in the database, the CRM, to just die in a cold, hard, painful, expensive death. And so what we did is we started reaching out to these folks saying, hey, let's get that over to our retail team and we'll close those deals. And actually the big group that we started partnering with and started working with, they literally now are making over $60,000 every single month for deals in referral fees for deals that were just being thrown away. $60,000 a month, meaning like they have about $750,000 worth of found money. I don't care how big your business is. $750,000 of free money is pretty darn life-changing.
Yeah, that's huge. And so you're talking about just dead leads.
Yeah. So
just working dead leads. How is that? Because I know that we talk to investors all the time and they're like, no, once they're dead, they're dead. It's just a waste. It's just this. So what are you guys doing that's different? Like,
so Jennifer, so if you have 20, you work so hard, let's say you get 20 people to call in. Of 20 people, what I see, you know, on average for just an average investor is maybe 1 out of 20 is going to sell at 65 cents on the dollar. Would you like agree with that premise?
Yeah.
All right. So what happens to the other 19 that are willing to sell, but they want closer to retail? Well, most of the time it goes and sits in the database. So what I did was we created a straight system to, one, go find a real estate agent that is really good at what they do, be able to look and divvy up your leads. So, because everybody's afraid of cannibalizing their leads. So they don't want to give away the leads that they could close as a fix and flip or a great buy and hold or something of that nature. And so we work hard to try to make sure that we get that done well. We get a great agent. We work to make sure we script it well, because let's be honest, somebody talks to an investor, they all have a brother's uncle who's a real estate agent, right? They don't want to talk to a real estate agent. And so then we once you pick the agent, the right agent, and that's the biggest piece there. Most people pick terrible agents and, you know, they just don't know how to pick the right agent, but you pick the right agent. Then we train the agent on scripting, because most agents go in and they just open up their normal listing presentation. And even a good agent, they go in and the people feel like they've been baited and switched. So we work with them to make sure that they have the right scripting, the right presentation, knowing that every single person that called an investor for 5 reasons, which is why one of 5 reasons, which is why they called an investor and not an agent. And so we help the agent really understand how to script those reasons out so that they can close at a high level. And then all of a sudden, these investors that are spending a fortune to close like 1 lead out of maybe 20 that would be willing to sell, those other 19, somebody else gets paid on them. We help them now get paid on those other 19 leads.
So what do you say now? I can see how in some markets this might work better than others. Right now, it is really a seller's market. I mean, sellers, even in my neighborhood, we had a house go up and used to be, it would take 6 to 9 months sometimes to sell. You know, I mean, we have a tiny landlocked island. Most plots of land have been owned by the same family since the early 1800s. I mean, we have just, not a lot of churn, but a house sold within 2 hours. I mean, it was like unheard of, really, that that's like hot, especially for the neighborhood that I'm in. So is it still the same process for that, or have you had to update it now that it's just so crazy as far as the seller's market in so many markets?
It's still a similar process. And I'll actually tell you one thing, and this for everybody out there that does any wholesale or any fix and flip. If your agents, so like the 2 hours, 4 hours, we keep hearing about that. If your agents are selling houses in 2 hours, they are costing you a fortune. And I do some teaching on this. It's outside the class, but I still teach and help people. And if somebody were in our class, I'd help them with it. But I'll just tell you this. The bottom line is, if somebody's going to pay, what's your average price point?
About 250 to, I don't know. It depends on which neighborhood it is. So in this neighborhood, it's 250 to about 350.
Okay. So let's say somebody, you put the house on the market for 250. I promise you'll have another 10 showings. As long as it's priced well, you'll likely get another offer. And what happens when you have 2 offers at 250? You go back to them and say, hey, and frankly, in this market, you're probably going to get 3 or 4 offers, and you just say, hey, I need a highest and best. And then you end up getting them bidding them against themselves up to like 270. And so boom, you just cost yourself 20 grand by taking that offer right off the bat. So I'll tell you, that's one of those big things where a lot of agents, they just don't even understand. They brag about the fact that a house sold in 2 hours. And then they don't realize like somebody that actually, like, I teach negotiations. That's one of the things that I do a lot of training with in the agent community. And I'm like, man, just cost your client a lot of money. You shouldn't be bragging about that. And so that's the big thing there. So anybody that does fix and flip, make sure your agent understands. Make sure that your agent understands not to take something in 2 hours. That's not how you get the best offer, and that's not how you get the most money for it. Easiest for the agent, for sure, but not best for the seller. So that's basically what we do. So even in your market, where you're at, where there's not tons of churn, the reality is, I mean, how many, on your business, how many leads a month would you have coming in?
Well, right now, my business is working on the podcast and that, so I can't really say to that right now. But back in the day, it wasn't really that much because I was still pretty new and I had family-owned businesses. I mean, I still have family properties that we have with our family, but I would say on average, I don't know, 20 to 30. I mean, we still did fairly decent, just considering that we were a small, like, family office sort of deal.
Yeah. So 20 to 30, you get 20, 30 leads, and probably usually about 50% of them are pretty strong. So let's just say it's like 15 leads that want to sell, and of 15 leads, you probably, get one that's going to sell at a massive discount. And then, but of the other 14, they're all still willing to sell. It's just got to be the right price, but it just doesn't fit you. And so what's going to happen is some other new investor,
or was in our area, we would get that too. Yeah.
And so then what happens is, like, a new investor comes in and overpays for it, loses their shirt, or else just releases it during the study period when they can't wholesale it, or somebody buys it as or it goes to another agent, and then you get paid nothing on it. And so that's why I think this is so powerful, is that frankly, you're going to be able to get paid all the time. And we see like brand new wholesalers that are making more money in referrals than they are making money in their wholesaling business. And then we see like mid-size and other size that just are able to, like, zero base. Like, let's say you spend $5,000 or $10,000 on marketing, they're able to get all their marketing covered so that everything they make in their investment side is all profit. And so that's where it just changed. It's life-changing when you can raise your margins by that kind of money.
Yeah, wholesaling is so hot right now. I mean, you see that on Connected Investors or Bigger Pockets, and how many people are just getting into just wholesaling. I have, I like to call it the TikTok, like I'm 512 years old, but even on the TikTok, they have a lot of wholesalers. I mean, and it's who you follow, but a lot of people talking about just wholesale deals that they can't even keep in their hands from referrals and different things like that, that they're doing out, and how they're just growing their businesses like that. So let's go back to like your average client that comes in that wants to work with you guys. Who is that person? So who are we specifically talking to for you?
Anybody that's bringing in leads. That's what I teach people. It's the companion course for anybody that's bringing in leads. If you are cold calling, direct mail, anything where you're talking to sellers, but you need to buy under retail. What happens to everybody else? That to me is the big thing. So here's an example. There were these lumber mills. This is like one of my favorite stories. There's lumber mills, and they were just barely profitable. And frankly, when you look, a lot of the investors that we start talking with, they're making some money. Not everybody. They're making some money, but they're not making a fortune, like ready to go retire. And so they're like these lumber mills. But then somebody in the lumber mill industry got the idea. They're like, man, we've been throwing away all this sawdust. What if we were to repurpose the trash, the byproduct? What if we were to push it together and create particle board? What if we were to use it to burn, to create heat? What if we were to, all of the different things that they could do with sawdust? They were able to repurpose it, sell the sawdust, and then they basically started making more on their byproduct, on selling the sawdust, than they did on the lumber they were milling. And then you realize, dang, this is crazy. The byproduct has so much value, and that's what's happening with most investors. Is they bring in leads, right? But then those leads, they just go to die an expensive, painful death in your CRM if they don't fit your buy box.
Yeah. And even for our entrepreneur clients that aren't even in real estate investing, we haven't lost you already on this very specific thing, but you have to think about it that way. When anyone comes into you, then how are all the ways you can help them? And really, that's what it is at the end of the day. So if someone comes in, they talk to you, don't be so focused on this is all I can do that you forget if you do anything else. Can you refer them? Can they be somebody you can help in the future? What are other ways you can help? When you change your mindset to, I want to help the most people possible that come in and speak to me, it makes it not seem like, oh, this is just a dead lead. This didn't work. I didn't make any money off of that. That is very limited belief sort of thinking. They came to you, number one. That's amazing. You got on their radar. So nurture that relationship. The worst thing that you can do is send them an email once a month and talk about whatever it is you're doing. So if it's somebody in the REI business, you can still talk to them about that area they're in, or put different emails for these different sections of people. Most people are like Chris, they're in 2 different areas, right? So they can just send them one email about the market right now that's specific to, let's say, sellers, people who are selling in the market, things that they need to look for. Don't forget about us, blah, 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 blah. And just keep that up to date with them. You don't have to lose them at all. You're going to want to keep those relationships because eventually they're going to remember you, or they're going to refer someone else to you that may talk to them about that, as long as they have a positive experience.
And here's what I say. So I own nine businesses, mainly in the real estate space. So like speaking to the entrepreneurs, one of the big things that I learned was early on, I would just focus on that top line revenue like crazy. I'm always looking at top line, grow your top line, grow your top line. And I love that. That's like one of the things Grant Cardone talks about. And I respect that a lot. But over the last few years, like one of the things I did was really focus on tax strategy, right? And I brought my, literally brought my percentage down to single digits of what I pay effectively in taxes, which going from a 50% margin to almost just over or under 10%, like I made a lot more money by getting a great tax strategy and understanding that the government has rewards for that. And so if you're an entrepreneur and you're building a business, not just looking at top line, but bottom line. And so that's how something like the REI Revive piece, it just fits so well, because you're already spending all this money. But if you can get your bottom line, if you can make more with what you already have, if you can be more efficient with what you already have, that's where you can really, really, really do well. You get the efficiencies, and all of a sudden you realize you don't have to bring in more customers. You can create more value and better margins with the customers you have. That's the easiest way to really grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Do the most with what you have. And a lot of people, they'll just go and buy an overpowered CRM, and they won't spend any of the time to get trained on it. So what happens is they have this behemoth that they work for that's not really even working for them. And if they would have just spent a little bit extra to get trained on it, that behemoth would be working a lot more for them, and they'd be getting a lot more for what they already have and they're already spending. So little tips and tricks like that are really, really worth it. Well, guys, we've been talking to Chris Craddock. You can go to chriscraddock.com. That's ChrisCraddock.com. You can also, if you want to talk about how to make the most out of your real estate leads and what to do with that and get some coaching on that, you can go to reirevive.com, and he'll talk to you about that. Before we go, Chris, is there anything that you want to give us before the end of our episode here?
Yeah, the only thing I'd say is, one, I know the average podcast listener listens to 7 podcasts, so obviously stay listening here, but I would love to be one of your 7 as well if you're in the real estate space. So Uncommon Real Estate, there's also a Facebook group for that. We'd love to be one of your 7. And then on Instagram at Craddock, CRADDROCK. I try to respond if anybody reaches out. I try to respond to any DMs, so feel free to DM me there. But yeah, overall, just anything I can do to be of value, be a service, and help anybody, please let me know. I'd love to help y'all.
Well, that sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for being on the show today. And thank you, EntrePods, for inviting us into your houses and your cars and outside, wherever you're listening to us. Remember, you can find us at EntrePods on every social media platform. We are on every major platform that podcast can be listened to. Be sure to give us a 5-star review. That way we keep on getting great guests like Chris on the show and keep on reaching out to you. Don't forget, you can go onto our website, EntrePods.com, and become a member. And that way you can get on Slack and talk to me if you want to talk to one of our guests, if you have a question. If you are an EntrePro member, then I will even give you a personal invite, and you can get some micro consulting to help you with some anything challenge that you're having right now. Thanks, guys. Y'all have a wonderful week. And thank you again, Chris, for being on the show. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. And please go give us a 5-star rating on your preferred listening platform if you enjoyed the show. This helps us reach more listeners like you and keep booking amazing guests. If you'd like to join our growing EntrePods community, want our social media links to like or share, or inquire about one-on-one strategy calls with our host, Jennifer, please visit EntrePods.com. See you next time, and here's to you and your best life imaginable.